Visa wants to know, where would you like to be? Whether you're a super fan or just in it to win your league, Visa knows we want to spend less time standing in line and more time pursuing our passions. That's why for over 60 years, Visa's been adding innovative plays to the way we pay. From tapping to pay to getting paid in 30 minutes or less, they're giving businesses and consumers more tools to do just that. They know that every Visa transaction is a promise, whether it's a street vendor in front of the stadium or picking up the latest NFL gear online. Visa wants to provide us with the most secure and easy payment experience possible so everyone, everywhere can get to where they'd like to be. Visa, everywhere you want to be.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is Nick Wright. Greg Jennings is with us this morning. Good morning, Greg. Nice
Good morning.
to see you.
You are here on a very monumental day. Good to
am.
see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm excellent.
We got a lot to get to. We now know why they call it Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. We got a little of everything this weekend. We got upsets, we got overtimes, and perhaps the end of an era, and that is where we will start this morning. The defending champion New England Patriots hosting the Titans on Saturday. Quick recap for you. Fourth quarter, Pats down 1, under 3.5 to play. Brady tries to connect with Julian Edelman, but that's not an Edelman thing to do, dropping the ball like that. New England would later punt, still gets one last-ditch effort, 15 seconds left from their own 1, and Tom Brady with a pick 6. That ends the game and perhaps ends Tom Brady's career as a Patriot. We shall see. Titans win, they move on. Patriots are done for the season. After the game, all the attention, as you would imagine, focused on the future of Tom Brady.
Just very grateful for, the experience of playing this year for this team, this organization, and over the course of my career too. So I appreciate it. I hope I have always, tried to do the right thing out there, and who knows what the future holds, so we'll leave it at that.
Do you have a sense of whether you'll be back with the Patriots in 2020, and do you want to be back with the Patriots in 2020?
I love the Patriots. I mean, they obviously, they got it's the greatest organization, and, playing for Mr. Kraft all these years, and for Coach Belichick, I mean, there's nobody who's had a better career, I would say, than me, just being with them. So I'm very blessed, and I don't know what the future looks like, and I'm not going to predict it. So I wish we'd have won tonight, and wish we'd done a lot of things better over the course of the season, but we just didn't get the job done.
Is there any possibility that you would retire after this last season?
I would say it's pretty unlikely, but yeah. Hopefully unlikely.
Well, Nick, this is what everyone's talking about right now. It is the future of Tom Brady. Do you think Tom's played his last game with the New England Patriots, the only team he's played for in the NFL?
I do think that Saturday was his last game with the Patriots. And if it was, it obviously was the end of the most successful, improbable, and impressive run any player with any individual team in any sport you could argue has ever had. What he put together 2 separate Hall of Fame careers, the first 10 years and the second 10 years. It'll never be matched. In 18 years as a starter, 17 division titles, 13 byes, 13 AFC Championship game appearances, 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 wins, 4 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 league MVPs. No one will ever do what he did with that team. But he's not done playing football. And the New England Patriots, aside from the owner of the team, have not shown any inclination that they want him to continue playing football for them. They had plenty of opportunities to make Tom Brady the long-term commitment that he wanted to this offseason. They wouldn't. The only thing they gave him, and Robert Kraft talked about it with Peter King before the game, about how it was important to Tom Brady that he get flexibility, freedom after the season, that was something Tom wanted, because he does not want to trust his future to a person in Bill Belichick who clearly does not any longer believe in him as a top-flight, high-level superstar NFL quarterback. And so Jay Glazer reported this weekend, Greg, that he's not going to take any hometown discount, and why would he? He's taken hometown discounts year after year, and I'm sure he feels with that money you've squandered it. With that money you have not put great pieces around me. So I believe Tom Brady is going to keep playing football. I do not believe it will be with the New England Patriots. And if I had to pick a team, same team I picked 2 months ago when I said this day was coming. The Los Angeles Chargers have weapons. They have an opening at quarterback. He owns a home there. It's in a great city, and they need to sell tickets there. Reportedly, they have 0 PSLs sold for their new stadium. So I believe Tom Brady's a Los Angeles Charger next year, and I believe Saturday his career with the Patriots came to a somewhat sad conclusion.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. I think those were all great points. Obviously, his accomplishments supersedes what anyone will possibly ever do in this sport at that position. Again, having said that, I do believe he will be back in a Patriots uniform next year. I don't think this was the last time we will see him in that uniform. And there's a lot of reasons I feel that way. The number one reason is when we've seen over the course of NFL history, quarterbacks that have made statements like this, that have had unbelievable careers, they've always had a successor plan. Joe Montana, Steve Young, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Like there has always been a plan right in place.
And they had one for a while in New England.
They had one for a while, Jenna, and they let him go. So when you look at their current roster and configuration, they don't have that. And when you look at where they always have to pick in the draft, they're not guaranteed to get that. So with that being said, Tom Brady is their only option at quarterback. Now, when I say option, viable option as far as them having success and being able to sustain that success that Bill Belichick obviously wants to sustain. But I just don't see him going off outside of the relationship with Belichick somewhere else because he means so much to the organization and there is no plan in place to take the torch and run with it.
And I understand that, and it is a huge difference between having Steve Young, Andrew Luck, or Aaron Rodgers waiting in the wings and Jarrett Stidham waiting in the wings. But they knew who they had waiting in the wings when they refused to give him a contract extension this offseason. They knew what the quarterback marketplace was looking like. They knew who was on their roster. They didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo 6 months ago. They traded him a few years ago. And the difference between the Manning, Favre, and Montana exit is, yes, they had great players waiting for them. Those players were also still great. Montana went to the Chiefs, made an AFC Championship game. Favre went to the Jets and the Vikings, made an NFC Championship game. Peyton Manning went to the Broncos, went to 2 Super Bowls. Why does that matter? Those guys would only have been forced out, if you will, because they had a great player behind them, because they were still high-level players. Tom Brady, and I'm not trying to dance on the man's football grave. He's the greatest player I've ever seen. Tom Brady is not a good quarterback anymore. We saw it again this weekend. The reason they are not playing any longer is because in consecutive weeks, they lost to the fighting Ryans, Fitzpatrick and Tannehill at home. They win 2 weeks ago. They have a bye. They win this week. They're on their way to Kansas City with a chance to do what they did last year. But once again, that offense grinds to a halt after some early success. Once those 15 scripted plays are over, what did they do? Tom Brady was 7 of 21 for 62 yards to receivers in this football game. I know the pick six at the end was unlucky. Fine. He almost had a pick six at the end of the first half that could have essentially ended the game then. Mm-hmm. The second play of the game was this close to being a turnover where the ball barely was going forward when he got hit on the second pass of the game. Brady has been very bad this year. So if you're Bill Belichick, who ultimately makes the football decisions for the Patriots, he was made to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm sure he still feels some type of way about that. It's not necessarily, do we have a great quarterback behind Tom? It might be, we don't have a great quarterback with or without Tom, but one of them is going to be about $25 million cheaper than the other, so I'd rather go with the cheaper option.
But, Greg, what we're learning is in part of the interview that Peter King had with Tom Brady afterwards is that what he inferred was that maybe that Tom Brady doesn't think it was all on him, that it was the people that surrounded him, that hometown discount that he took should have gone towards building a stronger team around him. And Peter King's inference was if he were to come back, it's not going to be, I need people who want me. I demand other people. people around me. And that could be, I don't know if you blame the last 2 weeks just on Tom Brady or the lack of who Tom Brady had around him.
No, you cannot blame the last 2 weeks on just Tom Brady. This season on solely Tom Brady. Now, he's going to bear the brunt of the load because that's his position. He's the quarterback, and he's always been the focus. But when you look at their personnel and the way they've been configured on offense, Nick, they just don't have the support. And when all of what you said is correct, but when you have a quarterback who is in decline, you gotta have guys around him that can help elevate that can help it literally take some pressure off of him. So making those catches that you ordinarily wouldn't see guys make, N'Keal Harry, Mohamed Sanu, these guys, you have to step up and make plays for a guy like Tom Brady or any quarterback who is falling off or is not subpar or elite.
And if you need guys around him to elevate him, which clearly at this point in his career you do, if you're a New England Patriots and you're Bill Belichick, is that worth $25+ million? Because Brady clearly, in that soundbite we heard it, he wants to be back. Robert Kraft, in his interview with Peter King that you were referencing, Jenna, Robert Kraft wants him back. But Bill Belichick, I haven't seen the contract. I guarantee in his contract it says full control of football decisions. He got his hand forced once in trading away Jimmy Garoppolo. I would imagine that Bill Belichick has a very tough conversation with Robert Kraft very shortly that says, if you meddle in this, it's not just that you're picking Tom. You are picking Tom over me. Belichick, we talk about could Brady be on the move elsewhere? I think so. If he's not, you have to wonder, will that make Belichick say, I would like to be elsewhere? Because total control is what I was promised, and it would appear I no longer have it.
And just as we've been applauding Carson Wentz for staying healthy all season, this happens. Jadeveon Clowney with the hit on Wentz from behind. You'll see him hit the back of his helmet as he hits the ground. Wentz forced to leave the game with a head injury. He would not return. And with no Nick Foles to call up, the next man up, 40-year-old Josh McCown, who couldn't quite get it done, turning it over on downs with the sack, with Philly down 1 score. Russell Wilson would later find DK Metcalf on 3rd and 10. It was a big one, 36 yards, would essentially seal the game. Seahawks win 17-9 to advance. The Eagles' injury-riddled season is over now. Here is Doug Peterson on his state of his quarterback.
I'm disappointed, for him, because I wanted this for him, obviously, and I think a lot of his teammates did too, and the organization did. I mean, he's battled through a lot, but we'll learn from it. We'll move on.
You were expected. Is this a different game if Carson was healthy?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I would say yes. If he's healthy, with the game plan that we had, I think so. But it's hard to speculate.
It is really too bad for Carson Wentz. He finally got to play in that the much anticipated playoff game we've all been waiting for, and then this happens. Nick, do you think that the Eagles would have won if Wentz doesn't get hurt?
I don't think they would have won if he doesn't get hurt. This is the type of game Seattle loves to play. This is the type of game Seattle's great at playing. Ugly, close games where Russell Wilson makes a few plays at the end. And Josh McCown came in, and while he wasn't able to punch it into the end zone a few times late in the game, Josh McCown played fine. Josh McCown completed 75% of his passes, a 95 passer rating, wasn't turning the ball over. Like, Josh McCown is not the reason the Philadelphia Eagles lost this football game. With that said, there's a couple parts of this play that I want to address. One is the laughable idea that, oh, look, another example of Carson Wentz's inability to stay healthy. This is so different than any other type of injury. I can't prove this. I'm guessing Carson Wentz desperately wanted to go back in this football game. But the NFL rightfully has changed the rules over the last decade to protect players from themselves, and he clearly was diagnosed with a concussion. You see exactly how he got it, and you're not allowed to play anymore. It's the rest of that game. It's unfortunate for Eagles fans. It's very fortunate for Carson Wentz long-term health and viability, but this has nothing to do with the narrative of Wentz being injury prone. No one can train their brain to not sustain a concussion. Now on the hit that made it happen, I think that's of play that should have been flagged, I do not believe that's a dirty play by Jadeveon Clowney. I think Jadeveon Clowney's going after the quarterback who's running the football. He's trying to get him down on the ground. I don't think Clowney's a dirty player. I don't think that's a dirty play. There's a difference in my mind, Greg, between an illegal play and a dirty play. I don't think he was targeting Wentz's helmet. I think he's going down to deliver punishment to him, which is what defensive players do to quarterbacks, and he happened to hit him in the head. I think he might just as well have hit him in the back. Obviously, for all parties, it'd have been better if he hit him in the back, and Wentz would have been able to keep playing. But this was, I think, a missed penalty, and the NFL's trying to take the head out of football, and that should have been a flag. I do not think it was a dirty play, and I don't think, Greg, it's the reason why they lost.
Well, for me, I agree with you. I think if Carson Wentz is healthy and he's on the field, you mentioned that Seattle likes to win games this way, and this is how they've won over the course of the season. Well, so have the Eagles.
True.
With Carson Wentz at the helm. For whatever reason, if they have an opportunity to win the game and they're close in close proximity, he does some special Carson Wentz mania type magic at the end of the game, and they're able to move on, as we saw the last 4 games of the season. To the hit was not a dirty hit. It should have been penalized. And anytime you get hit, and I've been concussed, when your head hits from the front, like forget the back. A lot of times you see receivers or skill players or even quarterbacks get hit and their head pounds the back and it throttles. But when you get hit frontal and your head pounds in the front and someone's on top of you, it's so hard to bounce back from that. And when you go to the sideline, you can try to say all the right things. You mentioned it. He definitely probably wanted to play, but you just look disheveled.
And you saw that shot of him sitting on the bench, blinking his eyes, trying to kind of compose himself. He did play 5 snaps after that, but he was clearly not the same.
Listen, he got a concussion, and they have to remove him from the game. And I hate it for Eagles fans. It's not the quarterback, but a few years ago, the best player on the team I root for, Jamal Charles, in a playoff game against the Colts, he went down just like you're talking about. His head bounced off the turf on the forehead first, and he desperately wanted to go back in the game, but they did concussion protocol. He had a concussion. You got to take the player out of the game. These are the rules. It's the right way to play the game. And I feel sick for Philly fans because it is a what if. I think Seattle wins anyway. I think Seattle's the better team. I think Seattle was the better team all year, and Seattle was the healthier team all year even prior to this. But you never know it. And you feel awful for Carson because he did check so many of those boxes. They had 4 consecutive must-win games. They won them all. He was excellent in that final quarter of the season, and this was the first chance for him to play in the playoffs, and he has it taken away from him. I just know a lot of people are going to be there's some doofuses that are going to be questioning Carson Wentz's toughness because of this. That's utter nonsense to me. But there are, I think, some right-minded people that are going to be attacking Jadeveon Clowney today for a dirty play. I just don't think that's a dirty play. I think it's an unfortunate play and an illegal play, but I don't think there was intent to injure. I don't even think there was intent to go for Carson's head.
And unfortunately for Carson, it happened on the 4th snap of the game for him, so he missed essentially the whole game after that. On the other side of the ball, the Seahawks won. I don't know if they won the way you wanted them to win, but how dangerous are they now moving forward? I know it wasn't your game plan.
I mean, if Brian Schottenheimer gets kidnapped, they're very dangerous. I mean, this is the story of Seattle. Thank you, Jenna. They just love ineffective runs and forcing Russell Wilson to be brilliant instead of just allowing Russell Wilson to be brilliant. We said going into the game, last year's playoff game against Dallas that they could have won was a story of they ran the ball with their running backs in that game 21 times, pardon me. If you remove 1 time Rashad Penny busted loose, it was 20 rushes for 31 yards. They doubled down on that and were worse than that this week. They rushed the ball with their running backs. I mean, you can look at the numbers. It's jarring. 17 times for 19 yards. Travis Homer had 11 carries for 12 yards, including a 12-yard run, which means the other 10 went for 0. Russell Wilson was brilliant every time he touched the ball. The running game was wholly ineffective every time they went to it. So how dangerous are they? I think they could go to Green Bay and upset the Packers if they make it a Russell Wilson game. If they try to make it a Marshawn Lynch, Travis Homer game, then they are going to lose because they do not have the blocking or the running backs capable of winning that type of football game.
You are spot on. Like, watching Seattle play, is so frustrating because it's almost like watching LeBron and the Lakers play and LeBron and AD being eliminated from the offense, and they're clearly the best players on the court. Like, Russell Wilson is the reason you are here. He's the reason you will remain here, and he's the reason why you will progress. And if DK Metcalf plays the way he played, and Russell Wilson has two guys to throw to outside of just running the ball and him eluding tackles and making marvelous plays with his legs, this is a scary team, and they could upset the Packers.
Especially with Clowney playing the way he played. He was excellent again, the hit notwithstanding.
And defensively, you just know they're not going to give up a bunch of points. And they're not afraid to go on the road and win dirty, grinded out games. We just saw them do it. We've seen them do it all year. We've seen them go up to San Francisco and make it a grindy, dirty game, and they came up big in that game. I like the Seattle Seahawks. If what you said, if Russell Wilson can just be special.
Allowed to
just
be
allow
himself.
him to be who he is.
Him.
Take the handcuffs off him. It is not 1968, Brian Schottenheimer. I know you learned from your dad, Marty Schottenheimer, that lost playoff games like this in Kansas City. You got to stop calling games like this. Long day at work, tough day at school, still stuck at the office? Treat yourself to the meal you deserve on demand from your favorite restaurant. Restaurants come to you with DoorDash. DoorDash connects you to all your favorite restaurants in your city. Ordering is easy. Just use the DoorDash app and choose what you want to eat, and your Dasher will bring it right to you wherever you are. Not only is that burger place you love on DoorDash already, but over 310,000 other amazing restaurants are too. DoorDash connects you with door-to-door delivery in over 3,300 cities in all 50 states across the United States and also in Canada. Order from your local go-tos or choose from your favorite chains like Chipotle, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, and the Cheesecake Factory. Don't worry about dinner. Let dinner come to you with DoorDash. Right now, our listeners can get $5 off their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code FTF. That's $5 off your first order when you download the DoorDash app from the App Store and enter promo code FTF. Again, that's promo code FTF for $5 off your first order from DoorDash.
On to Saturday's other wildcard game. Pats hosting the Titans, and Tom Brady would have a day to forget, finishing just 20 of 37, 209 yards, no scores, and ending the game with a costly pick six. With New England eliminated, the focus now turns to Brady's future with the Patriots. Our Jay Glazer reporting that TB12 won't give the team a hometown discount, much as he had the last couple of years, assuming the Patriots decide to bring him back. Here's Bill Belichick yesterday on Brady's future.
Certainly Tom's, an iconic figure in this organization, and nobody respects Tom more than I do. But I respect all the other players and all the other coaches in this organization too. And so, I think that everybody that is part of it is an important part of it. And I want to, give the proper attention and communication and detail and thought into my input into those decisions. But any decisions made is, it's not an individual decision. There are other people involved, and so there has to be some type of communication, understanding, agreement, whatever you want to call it. And that's not a one-way street.
Greg, you watched Tom Brady play this season. He certainly wasn't vintage Tom Brady, but you also saw him get out with the Patriots having an 8-0 start. Do you think that the Patriots should want Tom Brady to come back next year?
Should they want him to come back?
Yeah.
Absolutely. They should want him to come back. And here's why. When you talk about a player who has had an impact within an organization, but solely in that organization, who we've identified as literally the cream of the crop, they are the front runner every single year. You can't just allow this guy to just walk out. And again, I'm coming from a player perspective. Every single player that plays this game wants to stay where they got drafted.
With one organization.
Nobody wants to leave. And so I don't care what Tom Brady options are outside of New England. I don't care how great the talent is outside of New England. He does not want to leave because it's more involved than just football. His family, his kids, that's all they know is New England. That's all they know is that area in Boston. And so when you've had success, both on the football field and in your personal life, and you've grown as a family within the organization, personal life, this means more than just a game. It's more than just football. It's more than just records. It's all these things being thrown into a pile and taken into consideration.
Well, so I'm glad you brought up family, because if they do bring him back, it will only be because he is part of Robert Kraft's family, because he is a non-biological son of Robert Kraft, because it won't be for football reasons. And I said it earlier, I will say it again. No one will ever duplicate what Brady did. He played 18 seasons as a starting quarterback for New England. Throughout the year, he got his knee blown up in the first game of the year against the Chiefs. 17 divisional titles, 13 byes, 13 AFC Championship game appearances, 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 Super Bowl titles, 4 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 league MVPs. It's the greatest career any athlete, you could argue, has ever had, certainly since Bill Russell. It's ahead of Jerry Rice. It's ahead of my guy LeBron. It is the greatest career ever. But he, at this point, is around the 20th best quarterback in football. And his coach knows it. And we saw his play caller know it as well when they refused to trust him on the goal line in the critical spots. Handoff, handoff, handoff. At the end of the game, when they have a 4th and 4, I know it said on the screen 4th and 6. It was actually 4th and 4 with the chance of, do we go for it, down 1, or do we punt it back to Tennessee and trust our defense? No, we'll trust our defense because we don't trust our quarterback anymore.
The end of the first half of the Dolphins.
It's a very similar situation. And so, Greg, Belichick knows what I just said, that Brady, he was suspended in 2016, came back, 28 touchdowns, 2 picks, a 112 rating. The next year, in 2017, 32 touchdowns, 8 picks, wins league MVP, a 102 rating. Last year, 29 touchdowns, 11 picks, a 97 rating. And this year, they're out in the first round, he has an 88 rating. The way that doesn't jump back up like a stock market graph. It just keeps going down. So if you're New England, the non-emotional thing, that removing the family component, removing the history and the nostalgia component, and Brady said last week, I try not to engage in much nostalgia, so I wonder how much he's thinking about this as well. You rip the Band-Aid off. With or without Tom Brady, the New England Patriots are not a Super Bowl contender next season. So the quicker you start the process, the better it is for the health of the franchise if Belichick's focused on Super Bowl ring number 7. And then there is the one other element of it. I just want your thoughts on this real quick before we move on. I wonder if Belichick, if a tie goes to, I would like to try to do this without him. Like, we are inextricably tied together, Brady, Belichick. It has been the most symbiotic relationship imaginable, but it's not great for either of us anymore. So maybe we both now get a chance to go out on our own. Now, it's much more fair to Belichick because age doesn't affect a coach like does a quarterback, so he can still be great at 68, 69 years old. And I wonder if Belichick, how much of his ego will say, I want to see what this is like when it is entirely my operation, not me and Tom's operation.
Yeah, I think that they both parties feel that way. I don't think it will benefit either of the two unless Tom can go to a situation where it's all set up kind of like Peyton Manning did. But Bill Belichick will experience what life is like without having an elite quarterback, period. And he's never had that. He's never had to live life in New England.
He had it this year. He had it this year.
No, he had a bad offensive unit this year. It was not just Tom Brady.
The Patriots will have a lot of work to do if it is just going to be Bill Belichick. It's not just getting another quarterback because Stidham is not the answer. It's going to be shoring up the line and getting some weapons and all of it. So he will have his work cut out for him. The New Orleans Saints hosting Kirk Cousins and the Vikings yesterday. We're going to pick this game up in overtime. And Cousins with perhaps his best throw of the day, of the season, finding Adam Thielen for the 43-yard deep ball. That gets Minnesota to the 2-yard line. 3 plays later, Cousins looking to the corner, finds Kyle Rudolph for the 4-yard game-winning touchdown. Saints fans want the offensive push-off but they won't get it. Saints are stunned at home. Vikings win 26-20 in overtime to advance. Nick, after the game, the NFL's head of officiating, Al Riveron, released a statement. He said, none of that contact rises to the level of a foul, just to make sure it was sent to New York and back. Do you think Rudolph's touchdown should have been overturned?
No, absolutely not. And Saints fans, I understand the pain, I think I do, of the last 3 years, but zip it. This was not.
How do you feel, Nick?
This was not why the NFL instituted instant replay. It was because of the egregious, awful penalty that wasn't called against the Rams in the game involving the Saints, obviously, last year. This is no. They should not have overturned this. And the story of the game, to me, Greg, is not this non-call. The story of the game is Kirk Cousins finally gets some vindication. Everyone talked about Kirk Cousins' record in night games. I didn't care about that. The point was, against good teams, he was terrible. He was 6-30. 6-30 in his career against teams that finished with a winning record. And he goes to New Orleans to a way overqualified 3 seed, 13-3 team, plays better than Drew Brees. And Jenna, you mentioned it, and Troy Aikman on the broadcast had it exactly right in real time. Unleashes the single best throw of his career to set up the touchdown, which was a damn good throw itself in the touchdown, the throw to Thielen. And there's some irony in the throw to Thielen, this one here. This is the exact route, the exact play that he missed Thielen on in Week 4 against Chicago, that he then apologized to Thielen about, that then all the Kirk Cousins noise got deafening. He hit it in the biggest spot. It's the exact throw, it's the exact play, and he misses him. And Thielen or Cousins was asked about it after the game and confirmed, same route, same play, missed it once, made it in this game. So I'm happy for Kirk Cousins. He seems like a really good guy. I don't know that he's a great quarterback, but he deserved this moment because he's been good enough to have at least one moment like this. That, to me, is more the story than a call that is a non-call all the time, a slight push-off in the end zone.
Well, getting to the call, should it have been offensive pass interference? Absolutely. It should have been. But it didn't surprise me that it wasn't called because this has been so inconsistent all year long. Now, we want to talk about why the league put in this offensive, defensive pass interference, replay opportunity for teams. And it's for plays like this. When you look at this and you look at the extension, the defender goes back, and I'm an offensive guy. Like, I play receiver. I know the advantages you get when you just get that little separation. Why? Because if you don't get that separation, they have an opportunity to impede where the ball is going to land. If it was a great throw by Kirk Cousins, I don't think that it should have been standing as a touchdown. I think they should have overturned. I think they should have overturned it. I don't like the fact that this has happened to the Saints 2 years back to back. Do I feel sorry for the Saints? Absolutely not. It's unfortunate. But to your point that you made about Kirk Cousins, this was about him. He outplayed Drew Brees at home in his own house.
Yeah.
And they deserved to win. They were clearly the better team. Offensively, defensively, they had the better quarterback, they had the better running back, they had the better receivers on the day, or receiver on the day. And the better defense on the day. They just overall outplayed the New Orleans Saints.
Nick, this was supposed to be the most well-balanced Saints team we've seen in the last couple of years. So how painful is this now for New Orleans?
Well, it's excruciating. And unfortunately for the Saints, I think this is a wrap. I think this is a wrap on the era. I think this is a wrap on
After how well Brees and the team played
Yeah,
this
because
year?
once again, at the very end of the year, for Brees last year was the last month and the playoff game. This year it was the playoff game. Brees all of a sudden, at the very end in the most critical moments, looks old. I mean, he looked old yesterday. Great player. Looked old. You mentioned all the things the Vikings had better than the Saints yesterday. The one you didn't mention, but it was glaring. Coaching. It is not only that the Vikings were better prepared for this game. Absent the fumble on the opening drive, they played a very, very good football game, clean football game. It was also that in the critical moments, where was Sean Payton? What was Sean Payton doing with the clock at the end of that football game? You have a timeout. You get a stop on third down. There's 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. If you don't take that timeout, you lose 40 seconds And on the punt, you're going to lose the 2-minute warning. They could have had the ball with 2:45, plus the 2-minute warning, obviously, down 3 with a chance to go win. Forget a chance to kick a 49-yard field goal to tie. And Sean Payton doesn't call timeout. They lose the 2-minute warning, keeps that timeout in his pocket. Well, you want to keep that timeout in case you get a penalty for a 10-second runoff. That literally happened, and you still didn't use it. Right. Sean Payton, every time we talk about top 5 coaches, Sean Payton's name is included. Every single time, like it's mandatory. Man, you had Drew Brees your whole time there. 5 years you had a losing record. 3 years in a row, you lose playoff games you had no business losing. In the excruciating fashion, I get it. Minneapolis Miracle, killer. People talk about the missed call last year. It was a missed call, sure. But then in overtime, it was a 57-yard field goal to beat you. And then this game, you lose on the final play. You're home as a damn near double-digit favorite against the Vikings. It was Sean Payton, the coach team, that lost in the Beastquake game. Remember that a decade ago? That had a 3-point lead or a 4-point lead against Alex Smith and the Niners with 90 seconds left in a playoff game. Lost that playoff game. You mentioned Mike McCarthy earlier. He got fired for not maximizing Aaron Rodgers' era. Sean Payton gets, we talk about him like he is right behind Belichick. This was egregious game management at the end and a horrifying loss for a franchise that really couldn't sustain another horrifying loss because this was I think, the final year of the championship window with a championship caliber quarterback in Drew Brees.
I agree 100% that this was the window for the New Orleans Saints with Drew Brees. However, we talked about Tom Brady, and you mentioned ripping the Band-Aid off right away. This is where I feel like the Band-Aid should be ripped off because you do have a potential successor plan in Teddy Bridgewater, who we've seen and your fan base has seen. You saw how he could operate and run that offense with Sean Payton. Seamlessly.
Yeah, he did great.
You have that in place. You got to move on. You mentioned also Drew Brees looking old. There was several times where I felt like just his inability to extend the play and with his legs and get outside what we've seen to be the staple in our league, pass rushers that can just get after the quarterback. You have to have a guy that can be mobile and still get the ball downfield. Now, he's been able to do that his entire career, and it just didn't look like he had it yesterday.
The fumble after the Taysom Hill run was just brutality.
It literally threw them into the L column. When I saw that, I felt bad for the New Orleans Saints, not just solely for Drew Brees, because I felt like they weren't going to overcome that, and they did not.
All right, for the second time in 3 seasons, the Vikings have sent the Saints home for the season. Back here, First Things First, we're now joined by Super Bowl champ Amani Toomer. Good morning, Amani.
How you doing?
Good to see you, sir.
Right.
Great to have you. We have a ton to talk about. We are going to start with probably the shocker of the weekend, maybe not to Nick. The defending champion New England Patriots hosting the Titans on Saturday. Quick recap for you. Fourth quarter, Pats down 1, just under 3.5 to play. Brady tries to connect with Julian Edelman. It's a lock. That's not a lock. Drop the ball. Come on, Julian. New England would later punt, still get one last-ditch effort. 15 seconds left from their own 1. Brady throws the pick 6. That ends the game. Perhaps ends Brady's career as a Patriot. Who knows? Titans win. They move on. Patriots are done for the season. All right, Nick, let's break it down. How did New England lose this game?
Oh, it's similar to how they've looked the last 2 months of the year. I mean, they're 4-5 now, or they were 4-5. This season's now over. In the last 9 games of the year, they played a quality opponent. They couldn't get to 17 points. Now, it is the first game all year they've lost when holding an opponent to 17 or less. They were 12-0 in those spots, 0-4 when the opponent scores more than 17. Defense did its job. Well, you know what? Actually, I was thinking the game ended 14-13. The stat remains because the Titans did get that touchdown at the end, 28-13.
Yeah.
So the defense held them under, but the offense gave the touchdown. I forgot about the touchdown at the end. Defense did its job until the single biggest play of the game. Belichick didn't trust Brady enough to let him go for a 3rd and 4, 2 plays after the Edelman drop, punts it away, believing we're going to sell out against the run on 1st and 2nd down, force them into a pass on 3rd down, I imagine is what he's thinking. He got exactly that. And then Harvard grad Ferkser, who I was not that familiar with, I'm being honest, prior to his touchdown early in the game, makes the play on Ryan Tannehill's 8th completion of the night, and that was it. Like, that was all she wrote. So how did they get in that position? Well, 2 players. Derrick Henry was sensational, what looked like Earl Campbell, and Tom Brady looked like an old man. Tom Brady, and I understand he's receivers. You guys both won Super Bowls playing wide receiver. He could have used either one of you guys, not necessarily in your prime. I'm talking about just literally on Saturday. Come out there and help out if you can. Yeah. But 7 of 21 for 68 yards on passes to receivers. All Brady's yards came on those little dump-off screen passes and guys running. So the Patriots offense, after good drives, 2 of their first 3, died. And the defense played well, but did not score. They didn't get a special team score, and they needed that jolt in order to be able to overcome the Titans.
Yeah, usually this team wins because of defense, and usually because of special teams. Their defense let them down woefully. I mean, Henry having 160-plus yards, that you're not going to win many games in the NFL if you let that happen. Home, away, it doesn't matter if you have Tom Brady or Joe Montana. If you can't stop the run, it starts to unravel. And when you look at the way that on the outside, you look at the receivers, and it's just, like you said, nobody's ever won the Kentucky Derby on a donkey. You need the horses, and they don't have any horses on the outside. Edelman is a respectable receiver, good receiver, but you got to get guys on the outside to open up the defense so that Edelman can do his stuff and work in the middle, and that's just not happening. With Gronk out, they just don't have what it takes to beat the upper echelon teams consistently in a playoff type of situation.
Yeah, this was solely on their offense. The defense, I get it. You gave up 160 yards to Derrick Henry, but you knew what you were getting into with Derrick Henry and that Titans offense and what they wanted to do. They wanted to run the ball. They were going to hang their hat on that. You mentioned Ryan Tannehill had 8 completions. Like, that was not their game plan. Their game plan was turn around, hand it off to Derrick Henry, wear them down, and that's what happened. Offensively, they just don't have anything. Like, they ran the ball better, but they didn't run the ball like they did last year in the postseason and at the end of the season. Tom Brady, obviously, he's not the Tom Brady that we once saw, but I can't just put it solely on him. They have, you mentioned it, they have no one on the outside that stepped up, including Edelman. Like, they just didn't step up. And Edelman has been a great player in the postseason for them, and he didn't step up. But I can't put it solely on him. It's the guys around him. When you don't have another option to go to, a N'Keal Harry, Philip Dorsett, nobody rises to the level. A Mohamed Sanu, who you thought bringing him in was going to help you sustain drives and create opportunities for Julian Edelman, but it didn't. And so Brady just looks older and worse because he doesn't have anyone that can create separation and get open.
Why does it bother you so much, Nick, that we absolve Tom Brady of anything because he has no weapons to work with?
Well, listen, I do feel for him. If only he had Austin Ferkser. I mean, if only he had these. I mean, if only he had DK Metcalf, a guy who was taken after N'Keal Harry. I mean, guys, like the Patriots do not have elite weapons. We cannot talk about them like they had the worst weapons in football this year. They did not. They have a first-round pick at running back, a first-round pick at wide receiver, and a player at another wide receiver they spent a second-round pick on in Mohamed Sanu, a veteran midseason addition that when he was acquired, the narrative was, oh, this is a huge ad for him. Did he fall off, or did he go from getting to play with Matt Ryan to having to play with a 42-year-old Tom Brady? And again, I'm going to do the old reading rainbow thing. Don't take my word for it. Does Josh McDaniels trust him? 1st and goal from the 1, handoff, stoned. 2nd and goal from the 1, handoff, stoned. 3rd and goal from the 1, handoff, stoned.
Now, but is that him not trusting Brady, or is him not trusting the running backs or the offensive line that was
just the personnel, the skill guys on the outside?
Yeah. Who's he going to throw it to?
Well, okay, so they don't have a player who can catch a 1-yard touchdown. They don't have a player who they can go play action pass and throw it over the middle. I know that on 3rd and 1, Josh McDaniels said at midfield early in the game, our best option is our inside linebacker playing fullback to run the football. Yeah. On 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal, you took I'm not calling the plays. They took the ball out of Brady's hands. 4th and 4, when Derrick Henry has been just crushing you all game. Bill Belichick said, I believe in my defense stopping him more than Brady's ability and the offense's ability to get 4 yards. Those are the facts. Like that's what happened. Now we can argue he should have trusted him more. You can argue that if he would have shown more faith in Tom Brady, they would have won that game. I'll even listen to that, because I think if you would have told Brady it's either going to be 3 runs at the goal line or 3 passes at the goal line, maybe even a 4th because you're not going to lose yards on one of the passes, that they would have gotten a touchdown, and that could have changed the game entirely. But they didn't trust him. They thought they could win the only way they've won all year, which is making sure our quarterback doesn't make the critical mistake, which he did not until the final play of his career as a Patriot, which was a pick 6 going the other way, or what I believe will be his career as a Patriot, and that our defense will win it for us. And the defense in the final moment was not able to step up and get off the field.
Back here with Amani Toomer, AFC wildcard game. Texans hosting the Bills on Saturday. Jump to overtime. Deshaun Watson somehow, some way, avoids a sack, spins out of trouble, finds Tywan Jones, who does the rest, scampering for 34 yards to the 10-yard line. Man, Deshaun just putting on his cape, playing hero once again for the Texans. Little flex to show us what we're talking about here, and that would set up the Kaimi Fairburn game-winning 28-yard field goal. Texas win 22-19 to advance. They send Josh Allen and the Bills home early. Josh Allen very emotional after this loss. Yeah. All right, Amani, what did Deshaun Watson
I'd be emotional, too, if I tried to lateral at midfield.
With this win. First playoff game.
My God, Josh.
Young, what, 22 years old?
Yeah, you got to learn, man.
But let's talk about the quarterback across from him and Deshaun Watson and how superb. How impressed were you with what he did yesterday?
It's funny because I'm not impressed. I mean, I know what kind of player he is. I've been watching him ever since he was at Clemson. But his mentality is really what impresses me. The fact that no matter what happens in the beginning of the game,
because it was a slow first half.
Yeah, he
for
wasn't
him
spectacular.
Yeah.
And then he comes back in the fourth quarter, and that mindset where he is just on that level, and you can see he's ready to perform. He's ready to be at his best. And you can see his teammates realizing that. And I played with a quarterback in Eli Manning, who no matter what happens in the first couple of quarters, if it comes down to the fourth quarter and we have a chance to win, he's 100% on board. And that's what I think when I see Deshaun Watson. Man, this is a guy that, I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks I've seen in a long time, young quarterbacks, and I'm excited to watch him play. And the only reason why I wanted the Houston Texans to win this game is because I wanted to see him play again next week. And that's how I judge quarterbacks. Do I want to see him play? Would I pay to see him play?
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh.
For me, listening to you and then watching Deshaun Watson, I go all the way back to when Dabo Swinney said, "This is the closest thing to Michael Jordan that I've ever seen." And when you watch Deshaun Watson play, now he's not Michael Jordan, but his mentality, which is what you're mentioning, it's like he never falters. He never wavers. He's one of those guys that he can be down, but he's such a playmaker and he's such a player, and he's so mobile and he's so accurate outside the pocket, he can make you pay. It brings me to this point. The NFL has moved on from that pocket passing quarterback. That pocket passing quarterback, standing duck, is getting left in the wanes.
Sure.
And it's
Tom
because
Brady.
of it's because of
right?
It's because of guys like Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen. These guys can extend the plays, but they can still make plays down the field. Deshaun Watson can do it with the best of them. He had an electric game. And again, you said this earlier, he needed this. He needed this based on what they experienced last year. And even when you look at his duels against Patrick Mahomes and against Lamar Jackson, he needed to win a big game against a really good team.
Sacked 7 times, slow first half, and was able to do what he did despite his head coach.
Listen, yeah, he's spectacular. He is. He
nice
should have been.
With the head coach.
Well, and we'll talk about that in a second.
No one's better at the tee-up.
He should have been the number 1 pick of the draft the year he came out.
Absolutely.
And he was not even discussed as the number 1 pick. Now, in revisionist history, we'll say Patrick Mahomes should have been the number 1 pick. Patrick Mahomes is one of my favorite athletes ever. Who plays for my favorite team. When the Chiefs traded up in that draft, I thought they were trading up for Deshaun. I was devastated when they didn't. I was like, this guy from Texas Tech. So, like, Mahomes turned into this. Deshaun's always been this.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was the third quarterback taken, the fact that he was not even discussed for the number 1 overall pick, it's lunacy. And he's proven it every single week of his career. When he first came into the NFL, coming in at halftime of week 1, because Bill O'Brien didn't want to start a rookie, instead he started Tom Savage.
Yes.
And then he immediately goes on a record-breaking 6-game stretch.
Yeah.
Then he blows out his knee in practice. Last year, with the worst offensive line in football, carries them to the postseason. But then in the postseason, when the coaching matters more, they get depantsed by Frank Reich and the Indianapolis Colts. Then this year, looked like same damn thing's going to happen again, because Sean McDermott and the Bills really had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. They didn't have a bye, but they were locked into the 5 seed 2 weeks ago. The Texans were essentially locked into the 4 seed 2 weeks ago, so they knew what was coming. And for the first 2.5 quarters, it looked like it. It looked like Bill O'Brien's been in the lab for 2 weeks doing whatever the hell he does. Sean McDermott's been in the lab for 2 weeks, and the Bills are going to run away with this game, and it's going to be an indictment on this kid. And instead, he runs for a touchdown on a brilliant play. Gets a 2-point conversion with his legs on a brilliant play. And in the fourth quarter and overtime, he's 10 for 11 with a 149 passer rating, and the single best play I bet we'll see the whole postseason. You said it earlier. This is impossible. And he's had a number of plays like this in his career already. Texans fans will lament them, where he's been called in the grasp, where he has spun out of it, but the play's already been whistled dead. If he goes down, I think they lose. It's now 3rd and forever. They're probably punting, and the Bills are going to get the ball back. 2 guys willed the Texans to victory. J.J. Watt, the best player in the history of the franchise, and Deshaun Watson, the best quarterback in the history of the franchise. And the players deserved to overcome their coaching, and they did it. And I used to live down there, so I have a lot of friends that are Texans fans. I'm happy for them because they deserved this victory based on the brilliance of that young man and J.J. Watt alone.
And Amani, we talk so much about intangibles when it comes to the football player. J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson. J.J. Watt before the game coming out and saying, I may not be 100%. I'm giving you 100% of everything in my DNA for this game. And we heard after the game that Deshaun Watson at halftime said, enough is enough. I'm going to take this game on. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to stay up, and I'm going to help us will this game. How important is it that 2 guys like that are able to be on a team, again, despite whatever mistakes head coaches make and despite everything they did in the first half?
Absolutely, because momentum is, it's contagious, right? And you want your best players, when the times get tough in games, which inevitably they do, to step up and say, hey, look, follow me. I'm going to be there. I'm going to take all the responsibility. It's not going to be because of me. I'm not scared of the situation, and that's what you need in a leader, and that's why he's been successful everywhere he's been, because of that attitude. And I could see how Dabo Swinney would call him the Michael Jordan, because of the mentality and how he wills his team to win. Playing against Alabama in the national championship 2 times in a row, just dominating
and the best
both
player
times.
on the field both times.
It was incredible.
And the spark that lit the fire for the comeback was JJ's sack. JJ looked like he was really just there almost for an inspirational lift early on. Didn't look like it was going to be his play. And then in the second half, he came on strong for a great moment for him and a great moment for the team.
But for Deshaun, the moment in the game, clearly not too big for him. So time now for Put a Grade on It, sponsored by Comrex. We'll stick with Deshaun, who did it all in the win. The Texans quarterback finished 20 of 25, 247 yards, a touchdown to go along with 55 yards on the ground. And another score. So, Nick, start with you. Put a grade on Deshaun's performance.
I give him an A+, and if any of these guys disagree with me, I'm walking off the set. I don't care that it was a slow start. You're down 16-0 on a playoff game, came back, and it was because of his brilliance. I give him an A+.
I'll give him an A- because of the fact that he didn't start off as quickly. But
go, Nick.
The fact that he, came through at the end, you can't discredit the fact that he had a slow start.
I'm going to give him a B. No, I'm going to give him an A. I'm definitely giving him an A with his ability to overcome what is in front of him with his own offensive line and what's coming at him and what he was able to do, down 16, and then the play of what potentially could be of the playoffs. He's a special player, man, just special player.
All right, good stuff. Little
expect.
in or out, my friends.
Yeah.
Here we go. Tom Brady and the Pats were eliminated from the playoffs on Saturday. After the game, Brady said retirement is unlikely, but he doesn't know what the future holds. Nick, are you in or are you out on Tom Brady returning to the NFL?
To the NFL?
Season? Yes, not the Patriots,
No,
the NFL.
He's playing. Tom Brady's been very consistent. He wants to play till he's 45. I don't know if he gets to 45, but he's going to get to 43. He plays next season. I just don't believe it's in this uniform.
I'm in, and I do believe it's going to be in this uniform. I don't know when they'll settle it, but that's not up to me. I will find out like everybody else.
He's not going to retire.
He's not retiring.
There's no chance.
I don't know. I think I'm with you. I think he plays for the Patriots again. Eagles fell to the Seahawks 17-9 yesterday, in large part because Carson Wentz was knocked out of the game in the first quarter with a head injury. Greg, are you in or out on Philly winning yesterday if Wentz doesn't get hurt?
I'm in. Anytime you go into a postseason game, your game plan is strategically around the guys that you have going into that game, and then you have to make adjustments. McCown came in, and he did play good. He wasn't Wentz, and I think that if they had Wentz, they could have won that game.
I'm out because, A, McCown didn't make any critical mistakes. I understand they weren't able to finish drives. 5 times inside the 30-yard line, they come away with 3 field goals and no touchdowns. Did Philly. And the game is different if Wentz plays, but they were totally unable to stop Russell Wilson when the Seahawks begrudgingly put the game on Russell's right arm. And I just think they would have done that more often if Philly was able to muster more points. So I think one way or another, Seattle was going to win a close game. They ended up winning it this way. So even with Carson Wentz not being hurt, I don't believe they would have won. So I'm out.
All right. Moving on, the Dallas Cowboys have officially moved on from Jason Garrett. His 10 years at the helm only resulted in 2 playoff wins. Greg, you in or out on Jason Garrett getting another head coaching job in the NFL?
I'm out. You know, he was an interim head coach in 2010, and then he just fell into this opportunity because Jerry Jones identified him as someone that he could just pretty much puppet and can do whatever he wanted him to do. He hasn't been successful. Only 3 winning seasons. I'm out on Jason Garrett.
Jason Garrett is a longtime head coach of the Cowboys, right?
Yes.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He's also white. Those guys get other jobs. White NFL head coaches that get fired after, as long as it's not a total disaster, they become head coaches again. I'm in. Adam Gase had to wait 5 minutes. He got another job. Pat Shermer's on his second team.
Let's test your theory with Freddie Kitchens.
No. Well, for guys that are one and done, Rob Chudzinski types, Freddie Kitchens, those guys don't. Jason Garrett will be a head coach in this league again. He's the exact type of person that gets at least 2 bites at the apple. And I don't think he's a terrible coach. I don't think he's a great coach, but if you have a rebuilding team, I think he can get you to respectability.
Never really got to see what he could do if he was given
full autonomy over that team.
The reign.
Let's play a little drawing a blank.
Okay.
Tom Brady and the Patriots were eliminated from the playoffs on Saturday. After the game, Brady said retirement is unlikely, but he doesn't know what the future holds. Greg, Brady's team next season will be blank.
Let me think about this. It'll be the New England Patriots. And I know you don't like that, but it is what it is. They don't have a successor plan lined up like you would have seen with Montana and Young and Favre and Rodgers, and the list goes on. When you don't have that, walking away and letting a guy like Tom Brady walk out the door and you don't have somebody to step in and fill in those shoes, it's just not a great plan.
You say I don't like that. I would love that. I would love for Tom Brady and the Patriots to just keep it going. Yeah, guys, run it back. This year was an aberration. They play Kansas City again next year and get their head kicked in again. But he's not going to be on the Patriots next year. The Chargers make too much sense. He owns a home there. They need a quarterback. They need some juice moving into that new stadium where no one in LA seems to care about the Chargers. They have elite skill position guys in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler, even if they don't bring Melvin Gordon back. And all those, and I believe that is the only city. Tom Brady's wife has wanted him to retire for 5 years. I do not think he can go to his wife and say, honey, not only am I not retiring, but get ready, we're moving to Indy. I think he can say we're moving to LA, where we actually already live in the offseason. The Chargers make too much sense for a million reasons. That's where he plays next year.
All right, moving on. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings surprised the Saints yesterday. New Orleans, one of 4 teams that were sent home early this weekend. So, Nick, let's spin it forward. The losing team most poised to make it back to the playoffs next season is blank.
I think Philly. Washington and the Giants are not viable competition in the division. We'll see what Dallas does at the head coach spot. They have to be healthier than they were last year. They have the easiest path via the division. I think things are actually pointing up in Philly. They should be encouraged by how the season ended, prior to how the regular season ended. So I say the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'll say the Buffalo Bills. When you talk about the easiest path, I mean, obviously they're in the AFC East. They have the New England Patriots that have always been there. Mm-hmm. They have a really good team. Sean McDermott has done a great job with this organization. I like where they're headed.
All right, on to rookie DK Metcalf. He hauled in 7 catches for a rookie playoff record 160 yards and a touchdown in the Seahawks win. But Greg, we'll let you decide. The most impressive performance from Wild Card Weekend was
in a losing effort, I got to go with Taysom Hill. I liked his energy. I liked his mentality, his approach to the game. He scored catching a ball. He threw a ball. He rushed for 55 yards. You guys like that, you have to have on your team. If it were not for Taysom Hill, the New Orleans Saints wouldn't even have been in this game.
Absolutely right. Taysom Hill was sensational. I could have gone with Russell Wilson because when he was given the opportunity, he was great. Derrick Henry is maybe who I should have gone with. He was exceptional, but I want to give it to Deshaun. I think he overcame coaching. He overcame a 16-point deficit. He had the single best play of the playoffs right here. Turns a punt into essentially the game-winning field goal. So Deshaun Watson, that play plus the poise in the comeback, rushing for a touchdown, he beats Taysom, who was outstanding, Derrick Henry, Russell Wilson. I'll give it to Deshaun Watson.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern.